Hi, so my topic was food science and global food security, and I didn't really get much to the global food security just because it was supposed to be like two-thirds of the way was global food security and a third of the research at the beginning was food science and kind of just building a foundation on that. And I didn't realize how much that would take, honestly, just because I don't have much knowledge at all other than chemistry honors last year about food science. So I had to, build a bigger foundation and a stronger foundation. And of course, everything hit about halfway through the second semester. So global food security wasn't really fully addressed as much as I would have liked it. But I still got somewhat of a grasp on that especially helped. I was especially able to get my head around global food security through my environmental class that I'm taking this year, through agriculture and how readily available food is based on population size, and environmental effects of agriculture, which obviously is related to food science. Back to what I learned about myself through this project. One, I was able to work better when I was on a timeline and when I put myself on a timeline, basically. And, obviously, forever I've been a procrastinator, as most people are, honestly, in my experience. But I just work better when I put myself I need to get this done by this day, and everything needs to be done by this day. And I put myself this. I will do this thing on this day. That helped especially with whenever we did the calendars. And a mental calendar is still nice too. Secondly, which I already kind of knew, is that I'm easily distracted in class, especially when I'm just filling out and doing research, just annotating research that sometimes can be boring after a while. That I'm easily distracted in class when there's people that could be doing other interesting stuff, and maybe it's not on their topic, but it's still more interesting than what I'm doing, and then I'll just put myself in that situation and distract myself with that. But I already knew that, and it's just one of my weaknesses, especially when especially with independent research projects where you have X amount of time to do your project and no one tells you what to do and when to do it. One thing I learned that I'm successful in when independent studying is by printing out things and having them physically to look at and annotate and write notes on. That was just one thing I found whenever Brad, one of my mentors, sent me a whole bunch of PDFs of things to food science topics of all kinds of different topics that he said you can pick and choose of these depending on what you want to research, and I just printed out some of those that I wanted to annotate it and highlight stuff on that, and that was a way to keep information attained for me. And something else I learned when note-taking and studying is that it's pretty obvious, but when the thing that I'm learning is new and interesting, I don't have any idea of it whatsoever, then that is when it's really sticks in my brain. Stuff what's artificial ingredients versus natural ingredients, which just means it's being sourced from not chemicals, basically. So that's something else I just didn't know, and I obviously retained that information more because I had no idea about that. So, and it's obviously interesting, who wouldn't be interested in that? And something else, the next thing that I learned was just to trust the process when it comes to independent work. To not, at the very beginning, I was I have no idea what my final product is going to be, and I was kind of stressed about it, but at the same time, Mr. Lionel Weber was very reassuring about what you're to not worry about what your final product will be and not worry about how your topic is going to correlate to physics, and that's exactly how it worked. I got to the point, it was a week before it was due, was when I figured out what my final product was going to be, and that was just you just have to really trust the process, which I know is a common saying, but it's true, especially with this case. Another thing is that it's not always about the material you're learning, and more so about how you're keeping yourself busy and how you're keeping yourself on track in the ways of studying the material and learning it, and through the mentor, through your mentors and keeping track of everything with it, and that will help you in the end to go back and relearn what you learned over the semester. And it's about teaching yourself how to learn through an independent project when there's not a teacher that you're used to teaching you that not one-on-one necessarily, but very closely for I've been used to that for the past 11 years, so, or more than that, probably. Another thing I learned, which is kind of minor, but it's still interesting to me, is that I enjoy incorporating arts and crafts into my work, which is like not that big of a deal, but it's still fun because it just like keeps things interesting for me. Like whenever I was organizing my binder, I like made little binder tabs, and whenever we did the Hasty Convention, I did my artsy kind of trifold, which was it was just something else like to learn about myself, which I guess I knew, but it was like it just furthered my point. Another one of my strengths was being able to, like, I learned that which I knew, again, but it's just developed like on this thought that I'm strong in trying reaching out to mentors and finding mentors and contacting people. And this is obviously easy to do with how technologically advanced we are these days through computers. And obviously some of my mentors were given to me. Miss Muller gave me one of my mentors, and it's obviously again easy to have mentors in like a food science field, which is super broad anyway, and that I'm in the Midwest, like farming capital of the world. So. Some ways that this independent research project will help me in the future through college. Every adult and college student that's been through that college life stresses so much how little professors will help you, especially when you go to a bigger college, because they just have so many students to teach, and it's not really like a one-on-one, you ask questions, they respond. It's more so like they give you the material and you have the option to ask questions, but they're not guiding you they're not holding your hand and guiding you through the material. They're just giving it to you. Especially because we're, like, in this class, we're all upperclassmen, so we should be kind of narrowing down what colleges we're going to, or we want to go to. Then this project really helps you learn, like, how you'll be learning in college, depending on what college you'll go to. And even, because there is varying professors, but most professors won't, like, be nearly the same experience as teachers up until now. This project will really help me practice how I'll study in the future, especially when I'm an upperclassman in college and taking classes that I'll, hopefully be interested in and want to, like, more apt to learn about, like I am with this project, because, this project was, everybody picked their own topic, so everybody was more, like, interested in the material that they were learning, hopefully. So once I'm, like, an upperclassman in college, and even, like, my, some of my classes when I'm still a younger college student should be more narrowed to what I want to major in and what I want to do. So it'll be more about what the things I'm learning will be about what I'm actually interested in. Not to say that the classes I'm taking so far aren't interesting, but I'll just be more apt to learn about them. I will need to, something like that this project didn't necessarily do, is that I'll need to adjust in college. I'll need to adjust a lot about where I'll study in college, because most days of my physics project I studied in the same exact spot in the same seat, and that was fine. It wasn't anything bad, but I'll just have to readjust that once I'm in college, because most likely I won't be going back to the same spot. I'll be it'll be roughly the same spot. I won't be going back to the same exact spot to study most often. And I did do a little out of the classroom work this semester, but it was just like going to the library 20 feet away. It wasn't that I'll be studying my room, like dorm room, or in the library, like everywhere. This will help because I want to be a teacher in the future, so this will help in my profession, because no one, like, obviously when you're an adult, no one is you're not expected to be like one-on-one taught. And yes, there's the state standards that you have to follow when you teach, but you're creating your own lessons, and you're teaching children, so you need to come up with how to do that. And so now I'll have experience in guiding people in what works with teaching, and what works with how people obtain material, especially because I was able to, like, kind of, watch my peers and how differently other people learned compared to others, if that makes sense. The journaling helped me because it was kind of annoying because every single day we had to journal, but I actually really enjoyed it, and it helped me know what I was doing every day, so that in the future I could, like, look back and see what I did this day and what I have to do now. It was a place for me to keep all my thoughts and ideas, even though it wasn't organized, but it was, I could come back to later, and it was like all in one place. And it was also like not even related to the class. It was just a way to put my frustrations and my accomplishments and how I was feeling that day in one place without having to worry about, like, because when you talk about it, you can sometimes worry about what they're going to say or what, that person you're talking to is thinking, but you don't have to worry about that when you're just journaling. It's just writing down your feelings and thoughts, and I honestly really liked it. The midterm presentations at the Hasty Convention, it really assured my confidence when I talking face to face with people, because some people will like get nervous when because especially a lot of the scientists there were older than us, way more like degreed than us, so they were a lot smarter than us, and it can sometimes be nerve-wracking, and it really just assured my confidence that I know how to talk to people, and I'm confident when talking to people, that even when I don't know them. And it was also a way to learn what other people in my class were doing without me having to take time out of their day and taking time out of my day to understand what they were doing. And it wasn't like, it's not like that's that important to understand what my peers are doing in this project, but it was still really interesting to kind of listen in when I wasn't talking to people. And another really beneficial thing from the Hasty Convention was that most people at the Hasty Convention were like super supportive and interested in what we were doing, which was really cool to see. I didn't necessarily 100% experience that, but even just watching, like a lot of the adults that were there were really interested in what we were doing, and were like giving us ideas and sometimes mentor ideas about it. It was super cool. Something else about the midterm project was that it was super beneficial in bonding my classmates and I, because we had to figure out rides on ourselves, and we even went to lunch afterwards. And so we rode in groups, and it was a really great experience, and like learning about people that I wouldn't have come in contact in high school, portion of people that I wouldn't have come in contact with, and it was just a really great bonding experience, like going to lunch afterwards and figuring out rides, and seeing everybody like kind of act as adults whenever we were giving our presentations. That was just really nice. I wasn't able to go on a field trip or do field work. I was going to go, Ella, Macy, Jaden, Gavin, and I were going to go to the Medical History Museum on April 15th. That obviously didn't happen, though. But, I didn't get to go on a field trip. But the mentors were super helpful in giving me information. I had two mentors. One was a department head, and the other was a college student who was majoring in food science. So the department head he is a professor, so he knows, like, what people are learning, so that was really helpful because he gave me information and knew what to give me information on. And the college student, he's been through what I'm learning, so it was just really helpful to get information from them. And it was nice to have someone to email with, but talk to about my project, and knew what I was doing, to where it wasn't obviously I wasn't, it wasn't super advanced food science related information that I was learning, but it was still someone who knew the information of what I was learning. This semester, with not having a teacher, it was just a lot different, because for the past 11 years I've had a teacher that's super is teaching maybe a maximum of 30 kids, so they are guiding every single one, and it's not maybe one-to-one work, but they're telling all the kids what to do and when to do it. And that was just obviously Mr. Linoweber didn't do it, and he was there if you needed to ask questions about your project and a lot of the requirements for your project, but it wasn't he was going to tell you that you need to do your work at this time and get it done. A lot of days not a lot, but some days we didn't really do a lot do physics related stuff, and he wasn't guys, you need to get your work done most times, but and that was just a really different experience. I had to plan out a lot when I would do stuff and when I was going to study and what I was going to study. Obviously the mentor gave me a lot of information of what to study, but it was still, I had to seek that out, and he didn't just hand me a book of stuff to study and say what on this book I was supposed to study. And I had to use my calendar and my journal and obviously my mental calendar to plan out when I was going to do stuff and when I was going to get this done. And, just information, little details like that normally teachers sometimes take on. Another thing, I had to seek out people that would fill that position of what a teacher normally does. So those, obviously the mentors, seeked them out for, the material that I was going to get. But, there's other people that I know that have done the physics project before. If I had questions on that, I could reach out to them. I have a friend who was in this physics class last year, and I like talked to her a lot about this project and what I should expect and what to do and when to do it. And even like my parents kind of filled that role of the teacher, just like with little technicalities like potential field trips. Obviously that didn't happen, but just kind of things that teachers would normally get done. Not having a teacher guiding us along through the semester also was like I was able to learn a lot about other people that like in their studying habits through observing them, like how they would study and when they would get stuff done, if they were procrastinators or if they were eager to get everything done as soon as possible and then plan everything super well. And I learned a lot about other people's interests, and like I mentioned before about how I wouldn't have got to know people got to know certain people in this class if it weren't for this physics class. And I learned a lot about what people's interests were other than what they wanted to be what they wanted to go into as a profession, and besides what like sports and activities they played. That was something else, because there wasn't like, I didn't want to say the teacher didn't distract us from like each other, but that's kind of the case because Mr. Liner kind of stepped back and let us learn. So you were able to learn about other people's interests without having like a distraction of just a teacher like just teaching you the material.